Welcome to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to events that truly rock. From tips on planning and entertainment to will help you make your dream event come true. Now without delay, let's dive into your guide to event success today.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to event success. This is our deep dive into different entertainers. And today, we're super lucky. This is a busy, busy man, especially this time of year, or I should say this year in particular. We got Nick with us. Nick is a world famous soccer trick artist, freestyle artist. I don't know. I'm not going to get into
Yep.
describing it. If you can just introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do, how you do it, and I love talking about it.
Yeah. Thank you for the intro. Thank you for having me on. So, my name is Nick Seyda. In the freestyle world, I'm called Nick Freestyle. I'm a professional freestyler. So that is basically the sport where you're doing tricks with the ball. So a lot of people have seen videos of it online. You see some guy doing different movements around the ball. Nowadays, you see people doing flips and handstands with the ball, and a lot of people associate it as, oh, just, a few soccer tricks, or there's a few other sports it gets related to, like breakdancing. But it's actually its own entire sport with its own infrastructure called freestyle soccer, or around the rest of the world, freestyle football. And that's the sport I've been blessed to be engaged with now for over a decade, actually.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, it's a decade. You're obviously more than, 10 years old. So how did you get started in this? I mean, assuming starting at a young age, you got interested in soccer and then you started playing with the ball and then you went from there. So how did that progression go?
Yep. So I played a bunch of sports growing up, and my best sport was soccer, and I love soccer. Um, and I was going to a New York Red Bulls game.
Okay.
And outside of the stadium, they had freestylers. At the time, I was injured, so I wasn't playing normal soccer, but I was juggling every day. So I was pretty good at juggling.
Hmm.
Uh, Anyways, I see these freestylers who are juggling and doing tricks. It's pretty cool. I kind of want to learn something here. I go up to
Okay.
them. I say, "Hey, can you teach me a trick?" And they show me a few basic moves. I'm like, I'm kind of into this. Like, I like this. And they say, "Hey, there's a whole sport of just tricks. Like, if this is what you're into, just look up freestyle soccer, freestyle football, and you're gonna see there's a whole world of this." It's like, all right,
Oh,
check it out. I end up going home and looking it up on YouTube, and I watch a bunch of videos. I'm blown away. I'm like, this is crazy. This is all the tricks and ideas I started to have. Someone's already done and done it 10 times better. And this dude's doing a flip. This dude's doing a 360. What's going on here? This is crazy.
uh-huh.
So I started going back to all of the Red Bull matches, not to watch the game, but to kick it with those guys out front and show them a trick I had learned, or they would give me a trick to go home practice. Next time I would come back, hey, I got this one. What's next? Um, and then I started going to freestyle meetups on the weekends on the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
Mhm.
And that was kind of my introduction into the freestyle community and the freestyle world. Um, Fast forward a few months and I'm healed up and I'm ready to go back to playing soccer. And I'm thinking to myself, I would rather freestyle every day. I don't really want to step out on the field. I don't really want to play any other sport. I just want to kick it. And luckily, my parents were supportive after some convincing and also meeting people in the community where they
Uh-huh.
realized, oh, okay, there's a community here. There's some good people involved. Give it a shot. And now fast forward, I was 10, I was 9 or 10 when that happened, or
Oh,
maybe 11. I don't know. The first, you know how it goes. The first few years when you're into it, it all blurs together. So, but I
sure.
was quite young at the time, and now it's been over 10 years.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I mean, how did you, okay, so the question is, have you always done this? Is what your career path has always been?
Yes, it was either that. I think when I was 8, I think I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay. Those are very different things. I mean, you
Yeah,
heal people with entertainment, so I'll go with that.
exactly, exactly. A little different approach to making people feel better, but
That's amazing. So, how did you get into doing this, I guess, as a actual profession? So, going from just being interested in it and obviously going to the Red Bulls game and actually then becoming a performer and doing it.
right, right. I have to give that credit to the New York Red Bull guys and then two guys in New York, Frankie Flo and Spinny Vinny, because they would bring me to some of their events. that they were performing at, and they would let me jump in for 30 seconds to do a few tricks and
Mm-hmm.
kind of show me that, hey, if you're serious about this, you can also be a performer. You don't just have to go to meets, or you don't just have to train by yourself. You can show off. You can do a
Mm-hmm.
performance. You can engage a crowd. There's a lot you can do with freestyle. So that group took me under their wings, brought me to some of their shows. I did, little bits here and there. Within a year or two, I was able to fully jump in and do a full-on show with them with some basic choreography. And I started to really understand how that performance dynamic worked. And that was really what made me fall in love with freestyle,
Mm-hmm.
was not just the tricks, but the performance. The fact that all I needed was a ball and an open space, and I don't even need the crowd yet. I'll gather the crowd. Let me just start. One person walks by, he's going to stop and watch. Next person, he stops and watch. She stops, watch. All of a sudden, there's a crowd. And I love that. There was something so raw about, entertainment in that live action form. So those guys took me in, and it was off from there.
That's amazing. I mean, you actually just jumped into the next thing I wanted to ask you is that what is the difference between somebody just kicking it, like you said originally,
Mhm.
and an actual performance? How do you build the crowd? How do you engage a crowd? I mean, I'm sure just sitting there, juggling the ball, which I don't know if everybody understands what soccer juggling or football juggling is, but what's the difference between somebody just kind of doing tricks around and
Mhm.
actually having a performance?
Right. So if you go to a soccer match, or
Hmm.
even you can go to a basketball game, you can watch clips of this online of Steve Nash doing this. Normal soccer juggling is keeping the ball up with your feet like this.
Okay.
You're just keeping the ball in the air. It's not touching ground. It's going foot to foot. Maybe you put your knee in there. Maybe you kick it up, hit it with your head, control it. Most good soccer players can control the ball like that. Most athletes with a couple hours of practice can keep it up maybe 10 times.
Hmm.
So there's loads of people that can do that. And then there's a lot of soccer players that can do some basic tricks. They can do around the world where you kick it up and your leg does a revolution around the ball. Maybe you
Mm.
can put it on your head and balance it. And that's amazing. And if you do that, someone might stop and watch. But as soon
Mhm.
as you're done with that trick, they walk away. So how do you
Mhm.
keep a crowd? That's going to look something a little bit more like A, try and have a few freestylers because that's just going to bring a whole different element to it. But this works if you're by yourself. Um, you want to change your posture. You want to change what tricks you're doing. You want to change your movement. You definitely want something like music or an MC.
Mhm.
And you add in all of these little elements, and before you know it, even if you're doing basic tricks, but you do it in the right way, people are viewing it almost as if it's like a magic show. They're kind of, what's going on next? How did he do that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're doing push-ups and handstands, and it's an acrobat show. They're like, how is he balancing that? You're doing, your basic soccer juggles, but you're looking at people in the crowd. And all of a sudden, you just looked at 10 people, all 10 of them are like, I'm really in this now. This is crazy. So with a few switches, you can actually turn even basic tricks um,
Mhm.
into a spectacle and something that people really want to watch. And then, of course, if you train, for 10 years, or I would say freestylers at year 3/4
Mhm.
can put in some effort and choreograph something.
Mhm.
And that is a whole nother level. You come out with a choreographed show to music. You bring members of the audience up, and now you're doing crowd interaction.
Mhm.
So there's all these elements that once you have a little bit more mastery of the sport, you can combine and create something amazing.
That's so great. So you mentioned crowd interaction. How does
Mhm.
that look in an event, or how does that look in a show?
So it changes show to show. You always base it off of the crowd. There's a game called Pana, which is
Okay.
technically different from freestyle because it's a 1v1 game. But when we do shows and it's for a soccer camp of young kids,
Mhm.
they'll look at you and say, those tricks are cool, but can you play? And you don't sit down and say, well, actually, we do freestyle, we don't play. They don't care. They don't want to hear. They want to know whether you can meg their friend or not, knock it through their legs. It's like a humiliation thing in soccer. They want
Okay.
to know whether you can meg their friend.
Hmm.
So you say, yeah, actually, we're going to do 1v1s right now. And they all,
Okay.
you play this 1v1 game where you either score 2 goals on the mini net or nutmeg each other. And it's not quite how you'd imagine it. It's not this intense back and forth. It's
Uh-huh.
more like, we start the game, and instead of me shooting the ball, I flick it up into my shirt. But I do it where I'm not facing him and I kick the back of his leg, and now he's looking for the ball. Meanwhile, the crowd sees it's in my shirt, and now people are laughing. And then I drop it down in Megan, and now his friends are literally picking him up and carrying him off because they're like, dude, it's over for you. This is crazy. It's too much. So that's how we'd approach, youth soccer.
Mm.
Let's say we're doing something like a mitzvah or weddings, anything where it's a little bit more corporate. We have people in suits. You can do all these easy freestyle tricks where maybe we balance it on the back of your head and we do a
Mm.
relay race. You have to walk to one end of the dance floor, hand it to your partner. They have to come back. All of a sudden you just got 8 people who are in suits and ties who you think would never, step on a dance floor right now. All of a
Mm.
sudden they're doing freestyle tricks and laughing while they're doing it.
Yeah.
So freestyle is beautiful because you can cater it to whatever audience size, and you can really get people involved.
That's so exciting. I love that. And I love it's not just, and that was actually going to lead to my next question, is about actually show length. So it sounds like I know the answer for this, but I generally get this question a lot, is that like, okay, so I want one freestyler, they're going to do like a 45-minute show of just tricks,
Mhm.
and I want everybody sitting down and watching. We have like 500 people, they're all going to sit down and watch. And I get this question a lot, and I think this is just a misexpectation of what the ability is. Can you kind of dive into that idea? And like, I'm sure you get this question a lot too, where people are like, "Hey, yeah, let's sit down and watch the show for a while." So,
Of course, of course. I mean, it makes sense, but the easy way to compare this would be freestyle is like a sprint.
mm,
A sprinter can go for a few minutes at
mm,
most, but after those few minutes, he's done. If you tell, Usain Bolt, hey, you're going to sprint for 20 minutes, he's not going to show up. That's not how it works. Sprinters don't sprint for 20 minutes. So a
mm,
freestyle show, a choreographed one, um, is a sprint. So you do your sprint, people love it, and then because people are watching, you can, divert that attention elsewhere.
mm,
Usually, we can do a 20-minute show or even a 30-minute show because we'll do our sprint. We'll have a couple minutes of this freestyle action, and people are really engaged. And then you can start bringing audience members up and doing crowd interaction.
mm,
So that's usually the way a show would look is a freestyle show and crowd interaction. And that can last about 20 to 30 minutes. But of course, the actual freestyle set itself is a little bit shorter. Like I said, it's a sprint. You're looking at,
yeah.
3 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes if you can get, 2 or 3 freestylers involved.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a big, probably the number one thing that people don't realize, is that how
Mm.
much actual physical energy goes into what you guys do. I think a sprint is the best example of it. But it's basically telling somebody, "Hey, go do push-ups for for any normal person, go do push-ups for 5 minutes straight and see how you
Right.
are at the end of it." Because it's
Yeah.
and I never and you don't quite realize until you see how much you guys are jumping around and moving around and laying down, up, down, jumping, foot there. I get hurt just watching you guys. uh Thinking about your career, you've been doing this a while now. Is there a top event, a moment, something that you've done that you really are proud of?
Yes, it's twofold. One was winning a world title in the
Okay.
Czech Republic at Super Bowl, which is the World Open. There's a few different categories there every year.
Mm.
Winning that was, I would say, my competitive goal when I started. So of course, when you win that becomes your
And you retire.
highlight. There's a few other wins. There's a few other wins along the way that I loved as well, but a more personal one, and I brought this up a few times because I think it gives some humility and it gives a more overarching story to my story within freestyle as well as, what subculture sport is capable of. One of the world competitions I brought my mom to, and we went to a few different cities in Europe, and I was able to pay for everything. So it was in the summer. I think we went to like 4 cities, and one of them was Prague, where the World Championships were. And I was 14 or 15. I was young, and I couldn't
Oh.
travel internationally by myself. and I had done all these shows throughout the year, and I had saved some money, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go with me? I'll pay for you." And she was
That's
like,
so amazing.
Really?" I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Let me go check my sock drawer one more time. And that was a big moment because I realized, wow, this skill can be used in a way that's going to impact more people. Like I know I can do a show and make people smile.
Hmm.
But now I'm thinking even bigger, like, hey, there's a business here, there's
Hmm.
infrastructure here, there's a way to actually, help and not just help, but look out for people close to me. So
Hmm.
that was a really big moment as well, being able to take my mom on a trip with me.
That's a beautiful thing. I really and I love that that's a win for you. I don't think everybody thinks of that necessarily. I mean, I'm sure they think of it as a win, but I mean, not necessarily thinking of that in the sense of like your career um, pathway, which I think is a beautiful thing. With that said, I mean, that's a really good segue into it, talking about how at a young age you came up with this idea, you did this thing, and then you kind of got into actually utilizing it for a life and career. I think that's inspirational for a lot of people. Can you kind of speak to how that progression went?
Mhm. Yeah, so after that win, I was 16 and I signed with the New York Red Bulls as a freestyler.
Mm,
And that was a big moment because then I left school and I was working as a freestyler full time. I was traveling all the time, basically living nomadically. And then my home base was New York and New Jersey.
mm,
I was doing a bunch of shows there. So all of a sudden, I was in a more corporate world.
mm,
Now I was, having meetings. We were talking about budgets. We were looking at, I had money coming in, and what's going on here? This
mm,
is, for a high school kid who was really good at something, now he's in this professional environment. So there's all these factors to consider now. And I was just curious. I think that would be the key word here is I was curious.
mm,
And I wanted to know how everything worked. So I wanted to know how my manager was getting events and
mm,
why people were choosing us to come to their
mm,
events and perform. I wanted to know Red Bull is a huge organization, billions of dollars. Where does this money go?
mm,
So then all these business questions, at the time it was just curiosity. Now it's, we can categorize it as business, but all these questions came about. And I just started researching it. I started asking people, and I started to fall in love with the business side. And over those next few years, I started to really take that business study more seriously and even seek mentorship from the freestylers and people in the freestyle community that were on that uh, business and financial side.
mm,
And then my late teens, I was about 18 or 19, I was being mentored by Steve Elias, who was the president of the Freestyle Federation at the time and had a large agency, which had booked me.
mm,
And again, he was getting my emails and my texts with questions, and he was kind enough to reply. Um, and we started working more closely together, and that mentor relationship progressed. And then I was looking at starting my own agency.
mm,
So I managed to get my first few clients, book my first few shows, and he reached out. It's like, hey, congratulations. I'm glad, you're able to book some things, but it's going to take you, 10, 15, 20 years to build.
mm,
He's been in the game for that long, longer than I've been alive. He goes, why don't you join me? And that was a no, I didn't need any more questions or anything after that. I was like, oh, done, cool, I'll stop. I want to work here. Because obviously I had loved the brand, the agency, and his
mm,
work.
mm,
So working with him was huge. And then there was this infrastructure now that I could step
mm,
into. And that really progressed my business uh, because I was stepping into a much larger framework right away.
mm.
And then, of course, having, direct lines of communication that was massively helpful. And since then, it's been a few years, and I've grown to really love it. Of course, I love freestyle myself, and I've
Mm.
grown to love handling the business of freestyle for others as well.
That's amazing. So that really is I think a really great note there is the knowing the business, understanding the business is a key part of it. And then I mean, still speaking to kind of guiding people that have an interest. I mean, I don't know if you know, but I have a very similar path in my life. Was I started as a magician when I was 16. I worked throughout my career and I built my company. So I actually started as a magician when I was like 8, and then started my company when I was 16. So been a life goal and life path as me for me as well. So I love hearing somebody, chasing their passions. Is there any kind of advice you can give to somebody that is into soccer that likes to do something like that and how they can pursue that. Even if they're not necessarily the best soccer player, they might not be on on one of the teams, whether it's a professional team or minor league team or whatever. I don't know how to call it minor league, but whatever it might be. But they might be able to still use their interest and their skills for something.
Yeah, I mean, leverage every connection that you have and don't shy away from experience. Like I did loads of shows for free when I just started. No one wants to pay money if you've only been doing something for 6 months.
Hmm.
So don't charge money, get the experience. And if you kill it, they might buy you a pizza at the end.
Hmm.
But you're not worried about money yet. You're worried about gaining experience and knowledge. So I suppose it's with any business, is just get as immersed in it as you possibly can.
Hmm.
Um, don't stress too much about, a massive picture or building a massive business at the start.
Hmm.
Think more, how can this become my life? How can I
Hmm.
eat, sleep, breathe, whatever I'm working on? And if you're that immersed over time, that structure will come and your vision will become completely, delineated and then, go from there. If you're a, you know, walking encyclopedia for something, someone will probably have use for that information, and then there's your business.
Absolutely. That's totally right. Knowing stuff and I love it. It's the hustle mentality. It's being out there and being willing to grind. I think is a great lesson, and I totally agree with that. Now let's get into like actual events. So you've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events. Is there one that sticks out to you? I mean, we talked about some of your accomplishments in your career, but like speaking to the event wise, there's something that really like was like, wow, this is like I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I accomplished this kind of thing. I mean, those are all very different things, actually. I can't believe I'm here is a very different one than I can't believe I accomplished that because
Yeah.
those can be very different worlds.
I would say just shows slash events that stick out.
Hmm.
I did a halftime show for Kansas City, the soccer club. Um, and it was, I think, their first playoff game of the season, sold out stadium, beautiful venue. And I was able to work with a friend from Canada and two of my friends from the Netherlands. So I was able to bring that team in, spend some time choreographing the performance. The
Hmm.
performance went great. And I remember that being a really exciting show because there was so much thought and effort that went into it. And to see it all come together on such a huge stage was really exciting. Um, I had done a bunch of halftime shows before, but a lot of it was there was less creative freedom. There
Hmm.
was, hey, this is the role you need to fill, which of course we were happy to. A lot of it was through New York Red Bulls.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was incredible. But this time they said, hey, we want a choreographed show and we want international people. Now that
Hmm.
gets my brain going because I'm like, freestyle is international as could be.
Sure.
We have so many people we could choose from. Like, how are we going to do this? This is going to be amazing. So it was one of these events that, like, right out the gate, I was excited all the way through the end. Everyone was just stoked and excited on every little detail. Choreographing was fun, and then working with some of my best friends was
Hmm.
lots of fun. And then having a stadium show to cap it off,
Hmm.
it was just incredible. I mean, if you're gonna do a show as a freestyler, probably the number one venue you want to be at is a stadium,
Hmm.
soccer stadium, and at halftime. That's the crowd that's going to understand you best, and it's the most amount of people you can pack into a place. So it's
Hmm.
it's one of these shows that you look back and you think, yeah, this was, right at the top.
That's amazing. And so, what is the difference between performing in a stadium versus performing on a stage? Kind of obviously the crowd, the number of people, but like the energy wise. I mean, how do you perceive that as a person out there? I'm sure they're just very different experiences.
You know what's funny? The If you're not the nervous performer type, which is funny, you can be a really nervous performer and be
Hmm.
fantastic. I was into freestyle and performing when I was young, so my nerves went away quite quickly.
Hmm.
And you'd think a halftime show where there's 40,000 people might bring some nerves,
Hmm.
but it's actually the opposite. That stage show with 200 people that are right next to you is a little bit more nerve-wracking on average. Because when you're doing a stadium show, you're in the middle of a center and
Mm-hmm.
there's this huge dome around you, but there's a
Mm-hmm.
buffer between you and the people on every side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a buffer. So you can't see anyone. It's just a blur. You can see figures of people, but you can't look at them. You can't look right at them.
Oh.
So, of course, you change your show and
Mm-hmm.
you tailor it to the event. But on the personal side, that's what I've always found fun. The stadium show is less nerve-wracking if you're in front of 40,000 people than
I would never
a
have guessed that.
smaller than a stage show with 200.
Yeah, I guess you could see people's eyes, which I guess is the idea of it. You can actually see people like looking at you and you feel them looking at you.
Right,
So I can
right. You hear
understand that.
someone, yeah, you hear someone cough and you're like, oh wait, I am here, right? Like it brings you back to
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's always been quite funny.
Actually, it's funny. As a magician, I've done shows and I've literally said to kids like, "I am a real person. I'm right here. Like it's not a TV. I can see you or talk. You're talking to your. I can see it. So
Right.
I totally get that. That's funny.
So
I mean that drives me to my next actually another question is space wise. I mean, I think a lot of people assume being a soccer tricks and being soccer related, you need an entire field. How much space do you generally need for a show?
over the years, well, to answer the question up front, any space we can make it work with quite literally any space. Over the years,
Mm,
myself, my freestyle buddies,
mm,
I'd say we've performed at almost every venue you can imagine. Everything from someone's living room to a stadium to a theater, Radio City Music Hall. We did a performance at.
Wow.
Um, to a random club where the owner says, "Hey, can you do a show? Like, we're gonna do a watch party today," and you're in between like two tables. You have 6 feet. So we've done in restaurants, in the back of restaurants for the chefs, like just on the white flooring back there. We've done everything.
Uh,
So pretty much as long as there's people there that want
mhm,
a show,
mhm.
we can make it work.
That's so cool. That's great to know. Okay, so let me dive a little bit more in. What is an ideal situation? So obviously, I would
Yeah,
assume in the back of a kitchen around grills is probably not the ideal situation.
not the best unless it's free food and it's,
Then you'll make it
Italian
work.
food.
It'll happen.
Yeah, we have a little Italian food. We can make it work. Um, if we can get 15 meters by 15 meters, like a pretty large stage, that will work great. That way we
Mhm,
can do our performance. If we have multiple freestylers, we can, fit that show. And then when it comes to crowd interaction, we can really utilize all that space.
mhm,
So something around those measurements, like a healthy sized stage works, or even a dance floor. At
mhm.
most private events, weddings, mitzvahs, larger birthday parties, company celebrations, that dance floor that's usually in front of the DJ booth, on average, that is all the space we need.
Beautiful. And on average, I mean, how many freestylers are usually a part of an experience that you guys do? Is it usually one? Is it usually five? Where is your average? And what do you, or even better than that, what do you think is the best situation?
Mhm. Luckily, on average, and the best has been pretty much the same, which
Mhm.
is two or three.
Okay.
Two or three freestylers, you're gonna get a really dynamic show, and it's always nice to have a couple characters. You have one performer that can work, and it's fantastic. But when you bring two and three, and once it gets to four and five, of course, it's fantastic. But it's usually a little harder on the back end admin side of things. As you know, coordinating a lot of people can get tricky.
Sure.
Um, but when people are looking for a show and they say, "Hey, what do you recommend?" We always put forward two or three. That just brings the most dynamic show and most lively experience to the audience.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. When it comes to you've mentioned shows a lot, and I know you also do like walk around or mingling type of experiences. How does
Mhm.
that feel and run? Are you just sitting there kicking a ball, or do you need like a set space there? I mean, I know you mentioned you can be in between tables, but like, how does that usually feel for the client?
Yep. This is one of my favorite type of activations we can do, which
Hmm.
is this mingling cocktail hour, is another way we call it. that type of activation,
Ambiance, I guess is what I call it. Ambiance.
ambiance, and another one. That type of activation is fun because those are the questions we always get from clients, which is, hey, how much space do you need? Should we tell people what's going on? And one thing we like for ambiance is unless it's a festival where there's thousands of people in different zones where we can put a soccer field, if we can't, or a mini soccer field rather, if we're looking at a more corporate event or indoor pretty much, then we want no details. We want us to show up almost like we're members of the crowd, but this guy's got a soccer ball, and so does this guy. What's going on here? And we just start talking to people. Luckily, freestyle is such a social sport, especially in America. All of the freestylers here have so much experience in very social settings. I mean, you're based in New York City, you're around so many people, you're going to get quite used to interacting with everybody. The guys in LA, the girls in Florida and Miami, all those freestylers. We want them just to show up with a ball and let them freestyle it. So all of a sudden they start talking to someone. Oh, it's cool. Hey, man, you spin the ball. You put it on your finger. All of a sudden, the CEO of the company is spinning a ball on his finger, and everyone's watching him like, what's going on? And then from there, you can start working the crowd, and it almost becomes like magician crowd work, where you don't really plan it because you can't. But luckily, we have a fantastic and talented crew based all around the world, really. But I'll cater it to North America and the United States here, that can just show up with a ball and freestyle it from there. And that cocktail hour, that ambiance, people will be getting engaged one-on-one and in small groups in a really unique way.
And time frame wise, I mean, can they go? So we talked about the sprint versus marathon type of situation. Is that still something where we have to keep in mind? Oh, they have to take breaks every couple minutes, or is it a little bit easier in that situation?
Yep, that one's a little bit more free flowing. That usually we can quote at around an hour, just because cocktail hour usually is about an hour.
Sure.
Those little warm ups before the main event. It's usually an hour-long window. We can pretty much fill in that time.
Wonderful. So we're talking about events. Is there a particular event that you can think back on where something may not have gone right, or you maybe were not in the best environment, and then it turned into a great experience?
You know what? This one is quite funny. I don't know if I've ever spoken about this before. It was a New York Red Bull event. And this was a couple years ago, and I believe it was announcing that the World Cup was coming to New York. But this was in 2023. So years ago when the country was decided and the host cities were making bids. And we were at this outdoor festival on the waterfront. And there was a couple high-profile politicians there. Because of course this is, their state or their city or their legislative area. And at the time, the mayor of New York City was Eric Adams. And they asked, hey, can you guys do, just 2 minutes, kick it with him? I say, of course, why not?
Yeah.
So we go backstage into this little grass patch, and we all meet him. We say, hey, man, keep it up, So we start passing the ball around a little bit, and then one of our guys goes, Nick is a world champion right here. Watch what he does. So I start doing my normal set. It's going great. And my last trick is a backflip. But the grassy patch had a little bit of moisture on it. It rained the night before or something. So it was a tiny bit slippery. Anyways, my final trick, and keep in mind, there's about 85 different people around, like, journalists, security, there's a helicopter. Like, the eyes are on us, and we know. Like, we're kind of just nervous being there because there's a lot of action right here. Put the ball between my knees, swing my arms up, and instead of going up, I just go a little bit back. So my feet basically slip out from under me. And I get around by a hair. I don't land on my head. I land on my hand. I'm able to get my hand like this. So I touch my hands and then touch my feet. And then like jump up and grab the ball as if that was what I meant to do. So it basically looked like It was the either best backflip save or worst back handspring ever. And his reaction, this is what got me. His reaction, he puts one of his hands up like, "Oh man, that was dangerous. That was dangerous."
Yeah.
So his reaction of like, "Oh," he knew I
Yeah.
slipped and messed up. He knew there it wasn't a back handspring. So the fact that I saved myself was great. Like it turned into a good moment.
Mm.
But of course, it was, a little bit nerve-wracking. I almost, cracked my head open in front of the mayor. That would have been an interesting story.
Well, the good thing about that is at least, they have plenty of security and paramedics, and it would be like the best place ever to get hurt.
I would have been in the helicopter in 30 seconds.
So, did you see any footage of that after the fact?
I wish.
Ah,
There's a bunch of phones out, but I never got access to any of that footage.
I would have, I would love to see that. That's so amazing.
If it ever
uh,
circulates one day, I'll send it to
yeah,
you.
please. I would love to see that. I think everybody has a story where they almost busted their butt and are able to save it. So it's really glad to hear that. You spoke about cool people. I mean, you spoke about some famous people. I mean, I assume doing what you do, you've been around some really notable people. Is there one that sticks out to you that you can share? Because I know some situations you're not allowed to talk about who you've seen and what you've done, but
Right.
what's one where you can share?
People that I've bumped into at events, and this is, of course, what I can share, no problem. For the soccer world, Ronaldinho,
Hmm.
very famous Brazilian player. He's inspired a lot of freestylers, especially the older generation, because he
Mhm.
brought a style of play. He was part of the Brazilian community, and they represented Jinga, play beautifully.
Mhm.
So the goal wasn't be the fastest, be the best. It was who's playing the most beautiful. So it's
Hmm.
this really artistic expression of football. So he inspired a lot of freestylers. Meeting him was incredible, especially because I grew up watching videos of him. And then another celebrity that more people just worldwide, I think, might know is Daniel Radcliffe.
Sure.
He played Harry Potter, and Harry Potter were my favorite childhood movies. So meeting him backstage at an event was really cool. Yeah, I can definitely say those two. There's a couple other people I've bumped into, but I think just for the sake of, I mean, he was Harry Potter. Cool. How can you beat that? Meeting him was incredible. That was one of the ones where afterwards I texted, my mom and my dad and everybody. I was like, guys, don't worry about the show. Guess who I met? So one of those moments. That was awesome.
Oh my God, that's so cool. How about the best or the coolest one that you've made spin a ball on their finger or like did a trick with you? That's another layer to this, not just met.
That's really good. I, I can't think of anyone I've done personally that is
Mm.
better than what one of my friends did. I had a
Okay.
friend recently. Yikes. I had a friend recently in New York, came and visited, and he's from Italy. His name is Lorenzo.
Okay.
And he casually mentioned in a conversation, "Oh, when I did the event with the Pope, what are you talking about?" So yeah, I did an event with the Pope. And you can look it up. You can look up, I believe it was Pope Francis. You can look up Pope Francis spins basketball. He did
Oh
an
my
event
goodness.
at the Vatican. And Pope Francis, you're not allowed to go up to the Pope. There's
Hmm.
there's a crazy sort of basically the rules around what you're allowed to do at the Vatican and who
Hmm.
you're allowed to, speak to, where you can walk. It's all very, very strict. Unless he notions or motions to you to come
Hmm.
up, those performers weren't supposed to even like turn around. The Pope sees my buddy Lorenzo and his basketball freestyle crew.
Uh-huh.
It's like, brings them over, and he ends up spinning the ball on the Pope's finger. And that image went viral in Italian media. And I mean, it made its rounds worldwide. And he did another event years later where he, with the same Pope, spun the ball again because the Pope remembered, "Oh, I remember you spun the ball. Come back, let's do it again." So he had spun the ball on the Pope's finger. So to this day, I don't know if any of us could ever top that. spinning the ball in the Pope's finger. It's
I
absolutely ridiculous, and
that's
not once but twice.
that's so amazing. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there'd be a better one, but I think that probably tops it. That's very cool.
It's crazy.
Just goes to show how universal this is and how it can translate. So that is so cool. You brought something up earlier that I wanted to touch base on. I just think it's very appropriate and very on timing. You brought up the World Cup is coming to the United States.
Yep.
Can you kind of talk to what's going on with that? I mean, I don't know if everybody knows, but I mean that's obviously something that a lot of people know. But talk to that. Talk about what's going on. Maybe even what kind of stuff that you guys have planned and what opportunities there are. What things that you can do for people.
Yep. So it's already it's January 16th. It's shaping up to be the busiest year we've had in many years. So the World Cup is obviously the biggest sporting tournament, period, in any sport across the world. And it's coming to North America. So there's going to be games in Canada, United States, and Mexico, and the finals will be played in New York, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium. So in every city that there are games, there's all these events around it, some from FIFA, some from local businesses, and of course, freestyle being right, adjacent to soccer. There's a lot of inquiries about how can we get freestyle involved,
Mm,
and already we've had a ton of bookings for choreographed shows. Hey, before the match, there's a big viewing party here. We want someone to entertain the crowd before,
mhm,
book a show there. Um, we have, of course, some grand ideas that I can't share yet, but what I can happily share is there will be performances in every single city where there's games being played by freestylers, as well
mhm,
as clinics. So ways that the public can join in. Kids, adults, uncles, grandparents, everybody is welcome. You can come in, learn a trick at these activation zones, and then there's still the opportunity for other brands, other businesses to get involved with the World Cup, whether it's, through social media, targeting that audience, or in person, sponsoring activation. Even if you have a small business, if the timing works out, hey, your watch party might become the coolest watch party in town, with a freestyler there. So there's so many opportunities already. It's been I don't like to speak about things before they happen too much, but
mhm,
already it has been a high. It's just
mhm.
everyone has an idea and everyone is excited to work, and that just builds a beautiful environment to put on fantastic events in every single city.
Hmm. That's so amazing. I love that, and I am very excited as well for that, and that's obviously why we're talking right now. But I also wanted to give people to inspire people some ideas if they're like, oh, I want to be involved, I want to do that. You've kind of mentioned shows, you mentioned watch parties. Um, are there any ideas that you think would really resonate with somebody that may not be really into the soccer into soccer normally, but hey, because the World Cup is coming into the North America area, we want to do something, we want to be a part of it in some way. Is there some ideas that you could give people that would be good?
Definitely. Watch parties, I think,
Okay.
are fantastic because you can bring, your local community together. You can bring in entertainment there, pregame or halftime.
Mm,
So when the stadium is getting some type of entertainment, you don't have to be left out of that. You can bring, a performer to your event and
mhm.
get your own custom halftime show. Another one, and this is more of a spectacle, is watch a freestyle competition. So there'll be
Okay.
a few tournaments held around the United States, Mexico, and Canada where free to the public, you can watch some of the best freestylers in the world compete against each other.
Hmm.
And that's really a spectacle. That's where you'll see the highest level of freestyle period in the world. We'll have a lot of international freestylers coming over for the World Cup. So there'll be a few spectacle events like competitions coming about. And again, to follow any of this, you can follow pretty much any freestyler in the United States, Mexico, Canada. We're all in that community. One person leads to another, and you'll find out about this, really incredible community.
That's so incredible. I love that. Um, all the things are great. I mean, when I always like to talk about as a client, is there something that they should keep in mind when calling somebody like ourselves to bring in somebody like yourself and getting a new piece of skills entertainment to their event? And is there something that they just usually don't think of? What is like a piece of advice, I guess you could give them?
I'll give two. One on the technical side is keep in mind flooring. It's almost like being
Mm,
a skater where you have to keep in mind floor. So if we're on grass and it rains the night before, just have a backup plan of, hey, we can put this flooring down. That's something where I've had conversations with, event directors and coordinators and people, and there's been some panic last minute, which can all be avoided logistically by just making a nice little, plan B.
hmm
On
I'm
the
gonna before you go to your second one, what is the ideal floor? Because I think that's a having the right flooring is obviously is important, but what is that?
most mobile dance flooring, like the dance
Hmm
floors that you bring to bar mitzvahs and other
hmm
events, those are perfect for us.
Mm, okay.
So, and we can adapt we can use almost any flooring as long as it's not too slippery, wet, etc.
hmm So can you do
Now,
it on like a pavement? Can you like if
yeah,
someone's like, hey, here's a parking lot, great. Okay.
pavement is no problem. Turf, a track, any
Gymnasium.
sort of indoor flooring is usually fine.
Gotcha. Just so basically, as long as it's not slippery, is what I'm getting out of this.
That's it. As long as it's not slippery, we're gonna be good. Otherwise, we're gonna pull almost landing on my head again.
That's fair. That's fair. And then you have to have the ambulance nearby, and it's a whole liability thing. It's not worth it.
And there's probably no helicopter this time, so
So it's not possible. Nope. Okay. And your second one, you said, yeah.
yeah. Second one is people understanding what they're actually looking for
Mm,
and also what they're gonna get. So freestyle isn't just a couple soccer tricks where people watch it, oh, it's pretty cool, clap, and that's it. It's a
hmm
lot more involved than that, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot more personal than that. Like people will leave these events, realizing they've seen something that they can't really see elsewhere. Like freestyle is rare and it's a unique act. And
Mm,
that kind of exclusivity, we could call it, brings this intense but fantastically exciting element to an event. So when you bring in a freestyler, you're not just getting a couple tricks. You're going to get someone or a crew of freestylers that are there to really, really make an impact and make sure people are walking away thinking that was fantastic. And we have such a beautiful community showing up to these events and killing it. So, I mean, I'm excited for the World Cup. I'm excited working with you. I'm excited working here in New York. I think freestyle is a fantastic sport. It's growing, and the more people involved, the better. The more people bringing freestylers, the more freestylers getting involved in the sport. It's really fantastic, and it's onwards and upwards.
that's beautiful. And then, I mean, now I guess to kind of wrap us up, looking forward to this next year. I mean, you talked about so many things going on, so much. Is there one thing that you can share that you're most excited for in the next year? Or well, yeah.
I would say the overall growth of both sports, soccer and freestyle soccer slash
Hmm
freestyle football. I think just due to the massive exposure that comes with the World Cup, there's so many people that will fall in love with both sports, and I think there's nothing better than, being involved in a great sport with a beautiful community.
Love that. You mentioned before we wrap up, you did say one thing. You mentioned you've kind of jumped back and forth between soccer and football. I keep
Mhm.
using soccer just because, American and we like to have
Yes,
everything
we
different.
can use.
Um, so, how does that, I mean, going into this year, should we all be changing the way we say it? Should we be respecting the world more, or is it just a common thing that everybody knows around the world that Americans call it soccer?
That's a good question. Hmm. I don't know. I like soccer. I like that we're different a little bit. I think that's kind of cool. I would say just know who you're talking to. If you're talking to your buddy
Mhm.
from England, say football.
Okay, very good. That's good to know. Awesome. Well, thank you again so very much. Before we wrap it up, is there one thing that you'd like to leave people with? Is there something that they should know about you? Anything like that?
I'd say final statement is get involved when there's a match in your city and you see that there's watch parties and events. you know, even if you're not a soccer fan, I'd say just be open-minded, go see what it's about, and you'll find out that there's really, an incredible community behind these sports.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Nick. I really, really appreciate you taking the
Thank
time
you.
to chat with me about this. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Magical Memories Unlocked, our deep dive into our entertainers. If you guys need anything for the World Cup, any soccer-related stuff, we're doing a watch party, anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us. I'd love to connect you with Nick here and get all of our crews out there and having a good time with you guys. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Magical Memories Unlocked. This guide to event success is so helpful, some are shocked. Planning something big, we're here for you, with ideas and tips to make your vision come true. Magical Memories Entertainment is the team to make all your guests be